Thank you for watching. This is Michael W. Ford. Today I'm going to discuss Persian Demonology and Drauga, the latest grimoire that Succubus Productions has recently published. Drauga is a very significant grimoire in that it has been in the works for roughly 4 years, and actually going back to the early 2000s. It's a successor grimoire, if you will, of the early Atesha and Yatuk Dinoih from Luciferian Witchcraft, Liber HVHI. A particularly intense tradition which required a very long time of research concerning what I was working with. Early on in my initiation, there's a lot of things that you experience in the course of meditation, ritual, intent, and symbolic association that you feel are what a nightside Sabbatic Coven brother once termed to me as a truth within the circle, waiting for the literal historical fact, but if it inspires the black flame and causes that rush of instinctual power in your magic, then it's suitable. Well, fortunately, the text of Drauga really comes full circle in the research that had presented a historical foundation, mythological foundation, and a tradition that is continued with specifically some factions within the Order of Phosphorus and a lot of independent sorcerers. The Yatuk Dinoih is basically a phrase, 2 words that represent the law of sorcery. Now, the law of sorcery, or the code of sorcery, the foundation, refers to what they call daeva yasna, which is daeva or demon worshiper. Now, for myself and for as being a Luciferian, I don't literally worship or bow before anything outside of myself. I don't, when I say I'm a daeva yasna, I am a devil or demon worshiper, but I don't bow before anything outside of myself. It's all in relation to how the demon manifests in my own initiatory work and towards my results. I will use a wide variety of pantheons and magical techniques, ancient and modern, depending on how they work towards the goals I've really focused on. Avestan demonology is developed from the Mazdian religion, which was based around the Gathas, or the sacred texts, hymns of Zarathustra or Zoroaster, a reformer whose time alive is really kind of viewed between 1200 BCE and 600 BCE, prior to the Achaemenid Persian Empire of Cyrus the Great. It doesn't matter how if you get into that. The Yatuk Dinoih and Drauga is not a reestablishment of Zoroastrianism, nor are we painting Zoroastrianism in some potential shadowy type thing that no one's heard of. Drauga is centered in the development from the daevas, the old warrior and nature elemental gods of the Rig Vedas. They were Indo-Aryan, more or less invaders that had wolf cults or lycanthropy cults, basically called Halmavelda, which are Halma wolves. And it was a certain herb that they drank prior to going into raiding their enemies in battle and so forth. The mindset of Drauga and Luciferianism, and within Drauga it's called Ahrimanian laws, invoking Ahriman, is centered around that type of mental ideology which puts you in the state of conflict, war, and overcoming obstacles. It's not literal in the sense of any type of behavior, but it is a mindset. You're not relying on a deity to protect you or to guide you. You're really seizing and compelling and directing the elementals or the devas, with the crown being Ahriman within yourself, manifesting your desires. The devas of the Rig Vedas eventually became demons to the Zoroastrian cult, the Mazdian cult, and they revered fire, just as the yatus, or the sorcerer, would, just as I would have a altar fire or something outside and offer to it in veneration of and reflection of the black flame, our divine spark of consciousness, our spiritual rebellion, if you will. So the daeva yasna in Drauga is a foundation for the individual, the initiate, to take and adapt in this modern age, still utilizing the primal darkness and all of those things that people would, many people would be fearful of. These are dark forces, and they will either work for you or against you, depending on your path. The early Magians, or Magi, originally tribe of Median, and what's kind of northern Iranian tribal groups, who had a specific magical type of religious practice that was cultivated in the Persian Empire. Over time, these Magi spread out, and their teachings spread out into Babylon, and they adopted some of the techniques of magic utilized by the ancient Babylonians and Syrians, and they spread throughout the Roman Empire in succession and initiatory streams of the Ahrimanian current. We find a great example of this type of demonology used in a productive way by the Roman Empire, who venerated Mithras. Now, Mithras was used in the Daeva cult as the mediator between Hormazd, basically the Zeus, the god of the sky, and the director of order in the daily world, and between Ahriman, the primal hostile spirit of darkness, who was a very powerful sorceress being, who could assume many forms in the various myths, and really a prototype for the Judeo-Christian Satan in the medieval sense of the word. The cult of daeva yasna developed from inverse and prior to Zoroastrian practices. There's a blending of beneficial and the sinister, or the dark, confronting the dark, and those who could make offerings to Ahriman and the Devas could invariably control them and direct them accordingly. Luciferians utilize it in this way as well, with regard to we're not believing in something outside of the self, in a logical sense. And you'll see this as if I'm doing presentations or speaking to anyone, I don't like to throw subjective spirituality down someone's throat and expect them to believe it, just as I wouldn't like it done to me. I like to know the kind of psychological foundation and what the symbolism represents, and then using those techniques in your own individual, personal, spiritual practice, you can open that inner spirituality, whether it doesn't matter if someone believes in theistic, a type of theistic spirituality or atheistic. It matters what you do within, and your approach is your own. Utilizing in Drauga the Fravash and the daemon, the Hellenic merging of the two. This is the personal god or true will, directly associated with Ahriman, the evil mind, and Ahriman. Drauga, the word, is associated with Drauga, which is the lie. It's also associated with this, etymology, the name of the serpent or dragon, a primal symbol of chaos, war, and mastery. Early on, Anglo-Manu developed from the concept of the lie. What we know in terms of the practice of Yatuk Dinoih in Drauga is, I really would find a simplistic way of working primarily first with the 7 archdevas, which some traditions it's 6. The 7 in a type of meditative sense associated with the chakras, and then in controlling those, directing them, and utilizing the primal symbolism and really integrated initiatory experience of nature and the predatory spirit itself towards your magical goals. Underneath the 7 archdevas, you have the Deviodata, or the law of the demons, and these are specific demons, devils, or Drauga that have associations with the human mind, body, spirit, and also interaction with the human nature. The demonic is very important in Luciferianism because that dark is our core foundation and primal source of strength and desire for survival and consciousness. It is what lifts us from the sheep-like or slave mentality we find in monotheistic Western and Eastern culture now. The Daevas are presented in a modern sense using authentic, historical, mythological foundations. One of the key areas of making this type of sorcery dangerous is that you'll work with serpent skin, you'll work with toad remains, frog, you'll use skins of animals or whatever you have. You'll fashion objects of sorcery that inspire you from dead matter, human bones and so forth. In a logical daily sense, if I was speaking to you about Luciferianism, I wouldn't even go into this because it has to be experienced as part of a spiritual initiatory practice. We would keep it to the logical and philosophical elements rather than the tapping into the primal sorcery. If you utilize Drauga correctly, you will re-establish in your own way the ancient current of Ahriman. And believe me, in Drauga, my entire aim is to honor the dark forces and to bring to light, if you will, the order maintaining deific masks or gods of ancient Persia, which also have significance in the law of the strong or the law of the predator in nature. The chants utilized in the ritualistic practice is based around the ancient ceremony of the ordeal and the rites of the Yatuk Dinoih, and that is offering a bit of hair, your own hair, to the fire, invoking Ahriman, sprinkling human bone dust or remains in corners of your home to call forth the daevas, and really using their names in a mantra type or steota, sound sorcery, if you will, using your voice to command your desires and to summon forth the daevas, using your names towards specific goals in ritual. All of this will work for anyone who has the will, courage, and inner strength to approach it. Many of the kind of Black Order of the Dragon or vampiric traditional teachings that I've been involved in since the 1990s and with Drauga are presented, but not within a vampiric context. Those who have that type of experience and tradition, adepts in that practice, will pick up on it immediately. So I look forward to seeing how you, the reader, take Drauga, use the art by Kitty Savamosi and Mitchell Nolte, who did an amazing job fleshing out the gods of darkness, and utilizing it with the text to reestablishing and destroying monotheistic suppression of belief, and in the term of honoring Ahriman, Banama Ahriman. Thank you.